Notts County Talk, we are live. No preview last Thursday as Notts were obviously not in action with the FA Cup games and the postponement of the game there for us. But we're back. We're back on our regular Thursday slot this week. 2 weeks off. Feels like, with all the World Cup and everything's going on, George, it feels a bit strange to be previewing a Notts game.
Yeah, it does. I agree. It really does. Just feel like we should be off for a little bit, doesn't it? Because every time there's an international tournament, it should be summer. Still think it still should be held in summer, but that's another discussion for another day. But I'm sort of glad that Notts are getting back to it, really, because sort of losing a bit of momentum, aren't we? And the schedule's a bit all over the place. So glad to be back to it. Wish the World Cup was in summer.
Yeah, I've just seen, Spain are 1-up in their game against Japan. Germany are 1-up against Costa Rica. So it looks like those two are going to qualify at the minute. So if you are watching us back, I hope you enjoy the game you're watching. Or if you are live with us, maybe welcome in the background. Then, yeah, thank you for joining us. Even Ian, Luke, Charlie, thanks for joining us. If you are listening back on Spotify, as always, drop us a rating on there. And, thank you to our sponsors for the channel, Better Bytes Computers. As always, you couldn't do the episode without them. We're currently streaming from Better Bytes computer software. I want to go back I was going to go right back to Yeovil, but even before that, I want to just ask you, are you getting like deja vu from last year? We got to Christmas on a good run of form. It's a little bit earlier this year, and all of a sudden get going again.
Yeah, no, it does feel like that, doesn't it? It does. It wasn't just last season either. There's been a few seasons since we've been down here. It's been like that, hasn't it? It is frustrating. But it's a funny one because I was watching the presser today, and William said that he feels like he's seen sort of an increase in level of performance as games have gone on, and I found that quite strange because I don't think we've had as many good results recently. I think drawing to Yeovil was gutting, wasn't it? But he seems to be happy. Obviously, we've dropped down into second now. I mean, we'll see. But it was an interesting presser. He's sort of talking about it's probably been the toughest week he's ever gave the players in terms of training. He's really put them through the paces to make sure that they stay on the ball and things like that. It was quite interesting, to be fair.
Yeah. Evening, Derek. Thanks for your kind comment. Callum, that the cinema watching while the adverts are on. Callum, what are you watching? Let us know. We need your prediction in there as well, so you might want to put it in early. Last season, though, the only difference is last season we had postponements because of like the pitch, and the teams we played around Christmas were absolutely tin pot. I know it was a little bit after Christmas, but this time we've not even got to the weather postponements yet. And they're already being postponed. I know that the Bournemouth game on the 7th of Jan very cleverly has been switched to Aldershot on the 7th, which is smart. But from going to Aldershot last year, seeing the pitch, the ground, that's not going to be an easy January. It would have been much easier. Oh, I'll say that it would have been easier for me in March. I think in January it's going to be really difficult to go there and get anything. But they're not playing that well, and was it Barnet that was just last weekend? Yes. It was Barnet, wasn't it? And what an opportunity that would have been, just to get points on the board. If we could have done that, could have got 3 points and we're back ahead. So it's frustrating. And no doubt, if we look back at this Pavis perspective in 2 months' time, we'll I can guarantee, if we get to that 1st of Feb, I think that we'll have either done a Pavis perspective. I'd say we'll either have done minimum of two Pavis perspectives for games that end up being postponed, or we'll have postponed 2 Pavis perspectives because games won't be on.
Yeah, so. I hope it's minimal. There's a few fixtures last season. Kings Lynn away, that was a joke. Well, the first one was it like 40 minutes before kickoff?
It was stupid. Yeah,
and it's a 2-hour journey from most places in Nottingham, so that was a bit of a joke. But I hope to see less of it this season because it's just poor, isn't it? It makes this league feel just poorly organised and not at a very good level. Where the reality is, there's some really good footballing teams at this level. I think standards just slip a little bit in certain areas.
The thing that saves it here, though, is that Wrexham and Chesterfield are both through in the FA Cup, so it's not like they had games that were being played. They're getting games built up as well, and because we've rearranged the Aldershot game, that they're going to have another build up on top of that. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It stops momentum. Like, you get a home game, you get then 2-week break for the next away game, and like the days, what was it? The days between Yeovil and Gateshead coming up was like almost 30 days.
Yeah, almost a month. Yeah.
That's so long to not be at Meadow Lane. And I think that's why I don't feel disconnected, but I feel like you said just before we came live, I feel a bit out of the loop. There's nothing we've really missed, but we feel out of the loop.
Yeah. Obviously, we keep in the loop with it, don't we? We keep up to date, watching the presses, and as up to date as we can with sort of media outlet from Notts and elsewhere. But because like you say, there's not been a game, not done any videos, not done any post-match stuff. It like Yeovil feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Evening, Ellie. Thank you for joining us as always. And Ian. Ian says, "Welcome back, lads. Miss you both." And the mascot. Not sure George has missed the mascot.
Yeah, the mascot's biting my hand. Yeah.
Biting your hand.
Still teething. It's awful.
Are you going to Scunny? Yeah, I'm going to Scunny. George can't make it, but who's driving?
Jake. You won't believe your ears.
Jake's driving. You won't believe it. He's on Solihull away, and that's it. That's literally it. So, Charlie, thoughts on Bostock? We'll get onto that in a little bit. We're going to hop back to the Yeovil game almost 2 weeks ago now. 16-odd thousand. I couldn't believe it when that came up. It was massive numbers. But like you said, it was really gutting. Really, really gutting. And usually we have like 5 days to think about what we're going to say before the Pavis perspective, but we've had, 12 days now. But it's still an infuriating one for me. But like a really bad result. They played, let's be honest, they defended really well.
Yeah, they did. And people were sort of saying in the comments to the vlog on a different day, that's 3-0. We had the chances. And I think that is the difference, isn't it? I think in games where we've been super clinical and probably got more value out of the game than we should have, it doesn't always go that way. Yeah, they did. They played the perfect part of us. That's correct. But we just weren't clinical enough on the day. We didn't, as we have been previous weeks. I think the way we played was good. We were patient with it when we had to be, but we just couldn't really break them down. The game never really opened up for us. So, yeah, frustrating. It's frustrating because we talked a lot about leading up to the game about obviously new fans coming in, hoping to see a few goals to keep those fans coming down to the lane and hopefully see those numbers rise. And you know what? It was a good performance, but a 0-0 is never the best, is it? Let's be honest. It's never the best game to go and watch any 0-0, is it? But I hope we did pull in a few new fans, but it would have been nice to just see us at least win or score.
Ian says we don't want 16k every week, as I saw imposters in the Meadow Lane Club or the Meadow Club. Yeah. I hope people are
Jordan, the main imposter there.
Was it?
Yeah.
Jordan.
His second game ever.
But I don't know. It was a game where if Maka scores in the 4th minute where the goalie sits on the ball, I honestly, hand on heart, say we score at least 5 goals. Those first 3 or 4 minutes, they couldn't live with us. We came out firing, and then Maka missed a chance. Then we missed another chance, and the players were suddenly like, "Oh right, we're missing chances here." And then I don't know what it is. We're in this league because players don't perform at incredible levels for 90 minutes.
It's consistency.
Yeah, some of these players play the highest level for 90 minutes. They're in League One or Championship, as we'll talk about Maka in a little bit.
Yeah,
but I genuinely think we score 4 or 5 goals if we get that first one. They'd have been forced to come out unless they wanted to sit there for the 1-0 loss. Then it's really annoying because I can't remember who I saw before the game, and I said to them, it was Neil. I said first 10 minutes we score, and I was deadly confident about that. We had people predicting 5, 6, 7-0 in this chat 2 weeks ago. It ends
I'm
0-0.
sure someone even put Chicks in that trick.
Yeah, there's this guy that keeps going on Chicks and that trip. Well, you know, Ellie says, yeah, Yeovil came with the game plan, stuck to it, and it worked out. Credit to them.
Very anti-football though. Let's put that out there.
That's what I was going to say. All credit in the world to them. But
Defensively, but if my team were playing like that, I'd probably miss half the games because it's just boring.
I was going to say that great point for them. And I'm not saying not. It's a great point. They come to a side that were top of the league and got that, right? But what did their fans have to cheer at all? Because really, you can cheer as much as you want in front of the home fans that you got your draw, and like you're rubbing it into the home fans. But when you go deep down, what have you got to cheer about your team for that performance?
Being part of history.
Yeah, but it was awful. Jordan, just fantastic comment there. Anti-football because they can't play football. Jordan. There we go. It was woeful even when they had possession. They were poor. But it that's not going to happen every week. If teams come and sit in at knots every week, you won't get 0-0s. We will end up scoring. So that game's gone. Maybe 2 weeks gives the side time to like reset. Possibly.
I think it can be a good. Yeah, no, I think it can be a good thing. I think we've got that reset, haven't we now? And I think it can ground people a little bit. Because I think, when you're top of the league and you're putting in good performances and you're probably scoring more goals than you really should be in terms of, your sort of XG and things like that. I think games like that ground you a little bit and think, hold on, we're not actually invincible here. There are teams that can put up the wall basically and we couldn't break down and we can't score against. So it's then working towards how do we sort of combat that? Because now that teams have seen that Yeovil have done it and how they've done it, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more teams take a similar approach when they come to Meadow Lane.
Yeah, but I think teams want to play against us. That makes it easier for us. If a team wants to come and play, I think let them because I think Wrexham came with the idea to play against us and they couldn't get out and their game plan wasn't to sit in, obviously. But the first 30 minutes they were basically like Yeovil, weren't they, in that game?
Yeah.
Right, let's go to this comment because we're going to talk about Maka in a second. Ian says, do you think it's time to get a big centre forward to win some headers in the box after the Yeovil game?
No.
I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to rephrase my version. The answer to that is, for me, is yes. And I've been patient and I'm happy to be proven wrong. I think we need to get someone in that's going to be ahead of Kara Mitchell in the pecking order. He just doesn't cut it off the bench. There's no goal threat off the bench at all. And I hate to say it because I don't like bashing players, but I'm also going to be honest on here. Like, there's no goal threat when he comes on. I never think, he could nick a goal. We've had strikers in the last few years that you think they could nick a goal. Coming off the bench, guy who had a loan from Mansfield, Jimmy Knowles. He'd come on and nick a goal, wouldn't he? Or Dennis, it was either Dennis or Thomas rotating off the bench. You thought, they could definitely grab a goal. There's no goal threat. I don't even think, how many times did he touch the ball against Yeovil? It's 2 weeks ago, so I can't remember that.
Not a lot.
So you don't think we need a big striker to win headers in the box?
I don't.
But do you think we need someone to now come in as another striker? I really do.
I don't see us really going to. I don't see us using sort of lofted balls into the box as a predominant way of scoring goals. I get it now and again. Like, you obviously sometimes a ball goes in and you think, I wish we had a 6'3" striker who could score anything that's put in his way, in the way of his head. But you've also got to look at goals that were scored from open play and goals that were scored from not playing like that, I think. And the grass is always greener, isn't it? When we had Wotton as our main striker, we were crying out for the opposite. Now we have the opposite. People are sort of saying we need someone like Wotton. So I think sometimes you just gotta. There are times in the game where you're probably thinking, oh, I wish there was someone a bit taller, a bit more able to sort of get to that header. Let's not forget, Maka scored a few headers this season.
Yeah, he has.
But we've got some really good goal scorers in our team now. We've got 2 really good strikers, and everyone's sort of chipping in. And we'll go back to it because we always talk about it. Chickson's, what's he on now? 7, 8?
Yeah, we haven't even spoken about the miss against Yeovil. That last second miss. Oh my gosh, that hurt.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. What about this then from Andrew, who says it would be another option to keep opponents guessing, though?
Yeah, I get that. I do get it. I think you just need someone with a bit of unpredictability, almost like Castro.
He was
Just
a
bit of a wild card. Bit of a wild card. Yeah.
I really do think like we need someone bigger up top, because if you can stick someone on at 6'3", 6'4", we maybe nick that against Yeovil. We put I don't know how many crosses we put in against Yeovil. It was probably 20 odd crosses, and I'd say a quarter of those were in the air. Maybe most of them were drilled along the ground. A quarter in the air, and they dealt with that so easily. Like Maka and Scott aren't going to win headers when they're unmarked. They get good goals from headers, like against Chesterfield when Maka scores, because he gets space and the cross is good. We got no one to challenge. James says we don't have enough area threats all round. We're a relatively small team. That's why our corners go short, but it'd be good to have a different threat. I'm not even talking, George, about a starter. I'm not having to. I'm bring someone in that knows they're not going to start, but is happy to come off the bench and start chasing promotion. That's not going to kick up a fuss, because at the minute, the only option we've got off the bench will not score us goals. He's not scored since Halifax away. And I know he's not had a massive, probably not even had 90 minutes since Halifax away.
Any names that you can think of? Throw out there?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. No, not off the top of my head. I don't know what that guy's like that Richard at Not Stats talks about quite a lot at Kings Lynn. But he's scoring a fair few. Is he going to come and sit on the bench? Maybe not. Then there needs to be maybe a lone player, just or someone experienced. I hate to say it because I couldn't stand him. But you remember Matt Reed at Lincoln? Someone like that. Oh, Mascot's made an appearance. What's her prediction?
What's your prediction?
A Scunthorpe away.
She's absolutely stole the show.
What's the prediction though?
2-0 Knots.
2-0 Knots. Absolutely love that. Love it.
There we go.
So yeah, there needs to be someone. There has to be. There's so many goals in our team though. But do you know what I mean? Like Ruben scores, doesn't he? Scott scores, Langstaff scores, Chickson scores. There's no one else off the bench for me that's going to get you a goal. Maybe Austin might get a few goals. But yeah. Then, yeah. I find it's a difficult one because we're scoring so many goals. But at the same time, it's so one-dimensional. So...
yeah, I suppose you got to look at Wrexham as well, haven't you? They sort of have both, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
But we don't play like Wrexham.
No, they are hoofball.
Long throw merchant.
So, Alex says, I get the other option thing. If we execute right and get the players into position, it's hard to stop. Was chatting to someone who plays for another club in the National League, and he said, you know what Knots are going to do, but stopping them is impossible when they're at it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? The best teams, it's not about sort of outsmarting as such. There is times when we've done that, quite a few times to be fair, from set pieces and things like that, where we've done something a little bit different. But it is just having that quality that is hard to deal with. That's why teams like Man City are so good. Everyone knows what they're going to do. It's just being able to stop it that's the problem.
But no, believe me, I'm thinking. I'm not talking 70th minute if it were drawing, chuck someone on. I'm talking 88th minute. Someone that's prepared to sit on that bench and be a great player in the dressing room. 88th minute, and you're not going to score because the side is sat like Yeovil was sat. Just someone for that last 5 minutes. And if we adopt the World Cup added time system for the last 25 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
I think you do that in the National League. Time wasting will dwindle.
How many minutes would we have had added in the Bromley game with that?
We'd still probably still be playing. we'd probably still
12
be playing.
minimum. Some of these games are having 9 minutes with no time wasting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something to really think about, and we'll see in January. We've still got the Cal Roberts money to spend, if I'm right.
Who knows?
But I don't think we'll sign anyone that's not been really looked into.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, that's a given at this stage, isn't it? With the system we have in place, I think.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, say we did have that player and this happens again, and they get one goal, when it gets us an extra 2 points, turns or 1 point, turns a loss into a draw or a draw into a win. End of the season, we could be thinking, wow,
that's the difference. Yeah,
let's get Tom on the recruitment team because he suggested a big guy but with no name. So there we go. Right, we're gonna have to talk about this because it's quite big. We're talking about adding an extra striker, George. Do you think we're going to have to be talking about replacing a striker?
No.
Instinct? No? I agree. I'd be gobsmacked if we sold him.
I don't even think it's... I think it's from both ends as well. I mean, obviously, I'm a Notts fan, so I'm going to have a bit of a biased opinion on this. But I think, when you join a club, you're doing so well, you're second, you've been first for a lot of the season. Yeah. I feel like you'd want to see it out.
Yeah.
Imagine him getting back-to-back promotions.
Exactly.
There's still going to be clubs after him at the end of the season. Look at Shamanga. Prime example of that. I mean, the only reason that he didn't leave Chesterfield is because he failed his medical.
Well, failed his medical. Who knows what happened? But I get what you're saying. The thing is, £1 million is being spoken about.
Yeah, it's big, isn't it? That I personally wouldn't price him at that.
What would you price him as? It's hard for us to say, isn't it? What would you price him at?
It is hard for us to say, but I'd say like 500-600k max.
Well, you wouldn't turn down. You wouldn't say no to $1 million though. If
$1 million is a lot of money for Notts. Like you think, you think of the fees we've played for some of the class players we bought in, Roberts, Wharton, even Maka, Scott. I don't think any of those are over 60k. You could get an entire new squad.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't work like that, but I'm just saying the things that we could put in place with $1 million, and it's not just squad as well; it's staff, facilities, things like that.
Look what 300k gets you at a striker at Wrexham.
Who?
Ollie Palmer was 300k.
Never heard of him.
I know he missed that one-on-one, but he does score goals. You get $1 million. Imagine putting even 500,000-600,000 that money in. Ollie Palmer's played 42 games in the league for Wrexham, and he's got 26. That's good. 300k, that gets you that. How much was Mullin or Mullet, whatever his name is?
Undisclosed on it.
I'm looking at this now. He's played 59 and scored 42. What we could then get?
Oh, he's top scorer in League Two, wasn't he?
In the last two, and we're not even had 2.5 seasons yet. He's got 74 goals, and some of the goals I've seen are silly. Like he's basically scoring great goals, but we've got Maka, and I think we'll still have him. Andrew says if it's a 7-figure bid, not have to take it seriously.
I think that they'll have a fee in mind that they'll be willing to let him go for.
I think it's obviously more in January because imagine if football's not straightforward. Imagine if we tried to replace him in Jan, we're like, I've got someone wants to get with that money, and that falls through. You've probably got option 2 and 3, but each option is going to get weaker and weaker for not the man you want. So I think it's the whole thing is. Could you imagine if you get to March or April? I know we don't have a transfer window, but you get to March or April and you're like, we let Maka go, and who we've replaced him with hasn't hit the ground running, and there's some chances in that Maka would have put away, and you live to regret that. I think you get promoted with Maka still playing like this. Think how much more he'll go for. I think that's the thing. The profit's going to be insane. Ian says, I think this is a good point. I think Notts promotion is worth more than $1 million to us.
Yeah, it is.
Regardless, he goes on like a bit of a poor end to the season and gets another 7 goals, finishes on 25, would still make profit on him. Would definitely still make profit on him.
Of course he would. Yeah.
So that's something to think of. Is he for you way too big to lose? Because I'm looking at these fees being thrown around, and I'm not saying Mac is not a great player; he's fantastic, but he's only scored 1 in 5, and it's
Really?
almost he scored 1 in 5, and it was Southend away.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see. Sorry, I thought you meant in proportion, but obviously not. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because there was a point where I couldn't actually see that happening. You just looked like scoring every game, didn't he?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, form dips, doesn't it? But I'd like to think we'll see him score this weekend.
Yeah, we'll go on to this weekend's game in a minute. But I don't really know what to say other than no matter how well we're doing, I think he'll. So I'll finish it myself. I don't know if you want to add anything to it. I think we see Mac is still here at the end of January, 100% in my eyes. But if the right bid came in, I'd back the owners if they sold him.
Like I agree. The phrase I had in my head is everything has its price.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Also, if we're being honest, that's how you sustainably run a football club, is buying someone for 50,000 and selling them for $1 million. That's how you keep a football club running well.
Yeah, it is. It is. But on the flip side to that, if he is the difference between going up and not going up, then there's a sustainability comes into it as well with the amount of money you get from league fees. It goes up massively from the National League to League Two, doesn't it?
Football is just a big gamble, really, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Like, you do anything, turn down $1 million, Maka gets injured for 3 months.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Sell him for $1 million, gets injured in his first game for his new club, and you know. So it's a massive gamble. Like, you see some teams miss out on promotion one year and then they're like relegated the next in different divisions, and it's well, we look at Huddersfield in the Championship. They lost to Forest in the playoff final.
Who?
Forest.
Yeah.
That team in Rushcliffe, isn't it? Something like that.
West Bridgeford FC.
West Bridgeford FC, yeah. And now look at them. I think Huddersfield are bottom of the league. Right, before we go on to Scunthorpe then, John Bostock. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Donny Rovers fans wanting him to stay there.
Wicked career he's had. He's been some good clubs.
Yeah, he has. Apart from that West Bridgeford one. Not heard of him before.
Didn't play many games for him though.
No, I probably wanted to get out there fairly quickly. Played 7. They played for Hull, Sheffield Wednesday, Swindon, Toronto, Antwerp, Leuven, Lens, Bursaspor, Toulouse, Doncaster. I think he started at Spurs, didn't he, Bostock? Yeah, he did start at Spurs.
Palace.
30 years old, adds a bit of experience. 21 games last year for Doncaster, 18 the year before. I'd take him straight away. Do you want to talk about the presser earlier for those that haven't heard it?
Yeah, no, you're sort of saying that he's been training for the last 2 weeks with the squad, and he's added a lot in training, more than he thought. I think I'm talking about in reference to Williams. He said that he's got a good character, and he sort of come in, and gave a lot to the squad, which is good to see, really, because those are the small details that you don't really think about. I think it's almost like the Bobby Zamora to a certain extent, coming in and doing some training with the strikers, isn't it? Little things like that just change it up a little bit, tweak your game, improve your game, because it is the small margins when you're at the top, especially this season, because we've got Wrexham who are up there and got money to throw at everything. And I know Williams was saying that they've been speaking with his agent about possibly, he didn't say it word for word, but it sounds like that they're probably put an offer in place for him. But I think he has interest from elsewhere, is from what I understood. But I also think that could possibly be damage limitation if the deal doesn't pull off.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see.
I think we've definitely got the upper hand with him training with us.
Yeah, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? Because he's been introduced to the squad. I'm sure he fits in fairly well. Like you said, great career, lots of experience, and I think we might lack that a tiny bit in the squad at times. We've got a really young squad, and I think it's a good thing. But I also think it's a good thing to add a little bit of an older mind. Kind of like Jim O'Brien. You know, he's not played, has he, for a while, but he's still been going to games and stuff like that, because it's not just about the way that he plays, it's about his mentality and how he helps certain players and things like that. So, you know, I'm all for that sort of stuff. I think all of that stuff's great.
I think if we had a weakness anywhere, it would possibly be central midfield. Not in terms of depth, because there's a lot of players, but in terms of like quality of depth. You know, at the minute you've got Palmer and Badrami, who I think are great. You've got Jim that's coming back from an injury, who's good. You've got Francis, who played in the Eastleigh game, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he wouldn't be my first choice to play.
I agree.
Badrami as well. You never know. Could be needed to cover at centre back if it came to it. I wouldn't like to see him put at centre back. But if you've got the three where you can swap around of Badrami, Palmer, and Bostock, that's really good. I also think he'd be a lot more effective than Arter, because I think Arter came in just for a bit of match fitness by the looks of it. He didn't want to go into a tackle, and when he did, you know, it was almost as if he didn't care if he got booked or anything like that. Or
that backfired for him, actually. Well, not for him. I suppose it's for Forest, really, because he was on that big contract, wasn't he? And if Forest got promoted, it got extended by another year. So
I can't believe he was as poor as he was, really. And I think even the games where we gave a lot of credit to him, I think we were just sort of roasting. Well, I was roasting to thinking Harry Arter. He should come in that league and walk it. Bostock, I don't think is as good as Harry Arter. I'm going to put that out there on his day. But I think when you sign a player permanently, there's a lot more. It wasn't even like we signed players like Castro and they're coming on loan to prove themselves. Arter had nothing to prove.
And he left at a strange time as well, didn't he?
It was weird. Yeah.
Didn't he leave it was just before the playoffs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that was tied into his contract, but you just can't help but feel like if there genuinely was a feeling of I want to do well for this club, like he was saying in his interviews when he signed for Notts, you'd sort of want to stay and fight, wouldn't you? But
yeah, Ian says, I think Luke Williams' comments about Bostock was setting our expectations as it would be a long shot to get him. He turned down Donny contracts by a higher, so big as getting him in the National League. For me, if he does say yes to the National League, it's all on Luke Williams, I think. Personally. I think you want to play Luke Williams' ball.
Yeah, it's interesting, that is, isn't it? It's interesting because I remember when we did the interview with him before the season started, and he was sort of saying that, you know, dropping down for him wasn't to the National League. It wasn't an easy decision to make. But once he saw the sort of setup here and the how far he thinks Notts can really go, that was sort of the turning contributing factor for him. So I'm sure that he could sort of relay that to a player, sort of say, look, I was of the same mind frame as you, and this is what I feel, sort of thing. So I think if anyone can persuade a player to sort of maybe drop down a little bit, it's Williams, isn't it?
Could even pop in and say, have a word with Matty Palmer, because he's done the exact same thing. Like,
why are they speak to Macaulay Langstaff and Rodriguez?
Yeah, speak to them all. Pop in.
And Badrami.
You could easily
just go speak to the squad.
You could easily say, have a chat with Palmer and see how that's worked out. He dropped from like League One, didn't he? And things like that. Evening, Maggie. Thank you for joining us. Callum says, movie starting, going 5-0 Notts, Chickson, Cameron and Tor. Must be a Chickson hat-trick.
Must be a Chickson hat-trick.
Must be. Right, let's go on to our opponents then on Saturday. 12:30 kickoff. If you are watching and you've got tickets, it is a 12:30 kickoff. All games in the country moved in case England finished runners-up in the group and did have to play on Saturday evening. That's not the case. We beat Wales. And we
quite easily as well.
Sunday. Yeah, easily. Not made about
easy pickings.
Stern stuff, the Welsh. Easy pickings. But for me, they're in absolute turmoil. I don't know as of right now.
They've not been paid, have they?
I don't know if it's been resolved now. There was a statement put out from Scunthorpe about 2 hours ago. I didn't read it. I don't know if they've been paid. But as of like lunchtime today, players hadn't been paid. They're getting smashed left, right, and centre by teams. Like Charlie said, their top scorers red carded. Be the worst result of the season for me to go and lose. We're worse than Dorking. Genuinely.
Oh yeah,
If we were
yeah,
to lose this, it'd be
100%.
worse than Dorking.
Yeah, 100%.
And go on.
You've got players that are playing for everything. They're sort of playing for the, when you look at the likes of Notch, you've got players that are playing for pride, for money, for to better themselves, to push their career. And you strip back to what Scunthorpe are playing for this weekend, and this is with the most respect as well. The players that go out to play are playing for pride, and that's it.
Ian says the club have just been bought. So that was probably the statement. Could sort payment issues. It could. They've got 24 hours to prepare. I'm looking at some of the results, and honestly, they lost to South Shields in the FA Cup. I know we lost to Colville. They lost at home 2-0 to Maidstone, who were awful when we watched them. They lost to Dagenham. They lost to Wrexham 3-1. They lost to Eastleigh. They lost to Wealdstone 3-1. Top scorer, like you said, red carded in that game. It's got to be a win. It can't be anything else. They've lost 5 straight games. They're second to bottom. 43 goals conceded this season. Oldham are 1 place above them, and they've only conceded 27. Only Maidstone have conceded more in 44 than what we did to Maidstone. They score a fair few, 26. They've scored almost as many as Southend, scored more than Bournemouth, but let's be honest. Even this would be a low point for Notts. And I'm not saying if you're a Scunthorpe fan watching this, I'm not having got Scunthorpe. I think it's really sad when sides are going through what you're going through. We went through it with our previous owner, didn't we? And you got Southend that I think their players have been paid now. So it's not nice to see, but in the context of how it's going, it could be any club, but in the context of how it's going with Scunthorpe and the results they've had, and we're not sitting how we need the result, has to be a win. 100% has to be a win. And there's a lot of fans travelling. There's about 1,000 tickets sold, isn't it?
Yeah.
It can't be anything but a win.
I agree.
You see the exact same?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Lose a game like this and Wrexham win, let's say, don't really deserve to be going up, dropping points like that. I'm being honest.
No, I agree, but I think it's extreme. I do agree, but it is an extreme way to look at things. I think there is going to be a few of those results. I think this season.
There are, but this can't be one.
Yeah, it can't. I agree. But
absolutely no way.
It would be gutting to see that gap sort of get bigger, wouldn't it?
Because if the gap does get bigger, it's going to be hard to claw back. I don't know who Wrexham have got this weekend. York away. Then they've got Eastleigh away. And then the 13th, when we play Gateshead at home, is a big one because they have Chesterfield at home. Massive. I don't know what result I'd like in that. I can't really say now because there's 2 games between now and then. But I don't know whether I want a Chesterfield win to bring them closer but keep Wrexham where they are, or a Wrexham win to make it a 2-horse race, or a draw, which I don't really know. Right, should we go on to our lineup then?
Let's go for it.
Off you go.
Slocum in goal.
Yeah.
Back 3 of Brindley, Baldwin, and Cameron. Rawlinson is obviously out, isn't he? I don't know. That was in the presser as well because someone actually, I think they saw him in A&E in Nottingham, and he's got an injury to his lower leg, I believe, his calf. So we won't be seeing him this weekend for sure.
So exact same for me then so far.
Yeah, wing backs. Adebayo Rowling, right wing, and left wing Chickson.
I go Chickson and Naman.
Okay.
Just to mix it up.
Midfield, Bajrami and Palmer.
Yeah.
In front of them, Ruben, with Scott and Langstaff up front. Yeah. Just say you agree. Go on.
I agree. The only change for me is Aaron Naman for Toby, just to keep it. But they're going to have to rotate with the games coming up. It was something like 24, 25 days between Gateshead coming up and the Yeovil game we've just had. And then we've got 4 home games, including the Chorley game in 13 days, is it? So big chance. Get the Scunthorpe win. Then we go into some good home games. Oh no, they've got Maidenhead, haven't we, away? Yeah, remember that well from last year. Maidenhead away. So that's what we're going for then. That's the lineup. I think it's just all out attack for me. You just go there and you put the pressure on and you attack. Ian says he wouldn't drop Adebayo in. Yeah, I would, but George wouldn't. So it's a bit of opinions there. Ellie agrees with me, bringing Namain back in. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. Definitely. Let's go for the poll then, George, before we go on to score predictions.
Right then. Not many votes this week. 37 votes. It's upsetting.
Everyone's watching World Cup.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe. We'll see.
How much of the World Cup have you watched so far? 8% say none. It's interesting. 62% say some. 22% say most of it. And 8% say all of it.
Throwing my dad into that all of it category.
Your dad's watched every game?
Or pretty much every game, yeah.
Respect. I fall in the some. I've really not been into this World Cup at all, which is strange for me, because it might be no shock. I do quite like football, but I just can't get into it. Honestly, can't get into it. I only managed to watch the first half of England's first game. I said this to you before we came on, so it's relayed information. I watched the USA game, and I watched about 70 minutes of the Wales game, and I think I watched like half of France, Australia. I just really can't get into it. I don't know what it is. It's not for me.
I've watched most of it.
Good man.
Haven't been able to really watch the 10 o'clock ones. Just no chance. Watched pretty much all the evening games, weekend games. Made it my mission to watch all 4 this Sunday. All the England games, most of the 4 o'clock games. So 1 o'clocks have been ifs and buts. But yeah, I'd say most. I voted most. I think that the time of the games is obviously for some. Is why people have said only some, because people at work. Can I just say though? I've been saying I think Australia will get out of the group, and they've done me proud.
Yeah, they have.
You know, watch a lot of.
It'd have been amazing to be in Australia for that.
You seen the videos?
I've seen a couple.
Yeah,
but
mad.
Yeah, they know how to party, don't they? The Australians.
They do. Yeah, you know, watch a lot of A-League football. Saturday morning BT. If anyone else watches A-League or Saturday morning, cracking league to watch. So score prediction then has to be a win. Has to be
2-0 Knots, Macca brace.
I'm gonna go 4-0. 4-0 Knots. The only thing is their takeover could give them a bit of a lift, but I think we'll be too good. 4-0. Macca 2, Chickson 1. We need a defender score, don't we? Baldwin 1. Oh, he shot whistle by the post, didn't it, against Yeovil?
Yeah.
Whistle by the post. So we're going, yeah, that's our score predictions. We're going for a 2-0 and a 4-0. Let's see what you guys are thinking. Right, let's have a look. Let's see. Let's hope there's lots of positivity.
Germany currently out of the World Cup. Oh, no.
Oh, dear me. Knots to win 4-1. Macca times 2, Scott and Ruben. Does that mean Costa Rica have levelled against Germany?
I think Japan have scored out there.
Oh, have they? 2-0 Knots, Ruben and Macca. Let's see. Ellie's gone 4-0, Langstaff times 2, Scott and Cameron to almost the same as me. Maggie's gone 5-0. James has gone 3-0, Cameron, Chickson and Macca. And Stephen has gone 2-0 Knots, Macca and Scott. Can't forget earlier, before his film started, watching us in the cinema. So viewer of the week goes to Callum, watching in the cinema during the trailers. He went 5-0. Adebayo Lim, Macca, and a Chickson hat trick. Japan winning 2-1. Wow, against Spain. Shane goes 5-0. I'd love that. 0-5, I'd love. Yeah, really appreciate everyone joining us on Thursday. Good to be back. We will, well, I hope with fixtures that we won't be missing many Thursdays. So, well, for the rest of the season, there's going to be a lot of games to fit in. I hope there's not any postponements. I know the World Cup's been on as well, so appreciate it. I can see Jordan's watching the World Cup at the same time as this. I'll be heading down with Jordan and Jake for this one, so just come and say hello, have a chat at the game. There will be a vlog as well, so safe travels for everyone else going down there. Please don't forget to like the video, comment anything else you think of afterwards, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.